When I first saw him at the shelter, he looked like the easiest decision I would ever make. He wasn't barking, he wasn't pacing, he wasn't jumping against the kennel door like the others. He sat quietly in the corner, eyes soft, body still, almost composed. The staff described him as calm and low energy. After weeks of researching rescue dogs and preparing my home, that word felt like confirmation. Calm meant stable. Calm meant safe. Calm meant I wouldn't be overwhelmed. I mistook silence for balance. The day I brought him home, I felt proud. I believed I had chosen wisely. I imagined peaceful walks, quick training sessions, a dog who would settle easily into my routine. The first evening, he explored slowly, sniffing the corners of the living room, lying down often, watching me with those same quiet eyes. I told myself I had found the perfect rescue, but within days, something shifted. When I called his name, he didn't respond, not stubbornly, not defiantly. He simply seemed absent. He would stare past me or freeze in place or wander off mid-command. Sit meant nothing. Come meant nothing. Even simple eye contact felt rare and fleeting. At first, I thought maybe he just needed repetition. So I repeated myself, louder, more clearly, more frequently. Still nothing changed. In fact, he seemed more disconnected the more I pushed. I started to wonder what I had missed. Was he ignoring me? Was he untrainable? Had I misunderstood his temperament? The calm dog from the shelter was now pacing at night, licking his paws obsessively and zoning out during the day. The obedience I expected never materialized. The doubt crept in quietly. Did I make a mistake? That question carries weight no one talks about when adopting. The fear of having chosen wrong, the silent guilt of feeling frustrated with a dog who has already been abandoned once. I never wanted to be another person who gave up. So I stopped focusing on commands and started researching behavior. What I learned changed everything. Many rescue dogs enter what behaviorists call shutdown behavior. It is a protective state, a neurological freeze response triggered by prolonged stress. In shelters, dogs are exposed to constant noise, unpredictable human interaction, limited autonomy, and social uncertainty. Over time, cortisol levels rise. The nervous system adapts by suppressing outward reactions. They appear calm, but that calm is not relaxation, it is survival. This state is also described as stress suppression response or part of the cortisol overload phase. When a dog is overwhelmed, the brain prioritizes safety over engagement. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for learning and focus, becomes less active. The amygdala, which governs fear and vigilance, remains heightened. In other words, what looks like obedience might actually be emotional shutdown. When I brought him home, his environment changed dramatically. The quiet house, the absence of kennel noise, the predictable lighting and scent patterns allowed his nervous system to begin decompressing. Behaviorists refer to this as the decompression period. It can last weeks or even months. And here is the crucial part. When a dog begins to decompress, behaviors often intensify before they stabilize. That was exactly what I was seeing. The pacing, the distraction, the lack of response. He wasn't disobedient. He was transitioning from survival mode into awareness. His brain was recalibrating. If you're struggling to understand why your dog won't listen at home, we left a complete step-by-step guide in the first link in the description to help you understand what's really happening. What changed for me was understanding that obedience does not come before emotional safety. It comes after it. I had been trying to layer commands onto a nervous system that was still stabilizing. Instead of building connection, I was adding pressure. Research in canine cognition shows that mental engagement regulates dopamine and reduces anxiety-driven cortisol spikes. Dogs need cognitive challenges as much as physical exercise. In fact, Physical exhaustion without mental stimulation can increase stress in sensitive rescue dogs. So I shifted my approach. Instead of repeating sit, I began with structured problem-solving games, simple scent searches inside the house, food puzzles that required effort, short sessions of guided eye contact followed by reward. I stopped correcting and started observing. This is where the concept of hidden intelligence activation became real for me. Every dog has latent cognitive potential, but in stressed dogs, that intelligence is buried beneath hypervigilance or emotional withdrawal. The goal is not to dominate or demand compliance. It is to awaken engagement. I introduced confidence-building exercises, walking slowly through new environments while allowing him to choose direction, marking calm curiosity with reward, practicing micro-successes instead of long training sessions. Gradually, something subtle happened. He began looking at me before I spoke. He started anticipating small games. His tail wagged during structured challenges. His eyes softened not from shutdown, but from curiosity. The same dog who ignored come began checking in voluntarily during walks. What I had misinterpreted as stubbornness was actually neurological overload. Studies in animal behavior confirm that predictability lowers stress hormones. So I established routine. Meals at the same time, walks at the same hour, rest periods undisturbed, no overwhelming introductions to strangers, no chaotic dog parks, just consistency. Within weeks, I noticed measurable change. His responses became sharper. His recall improved. Not because I forced it, but because his brain had space to learn. Mental engagement differs from physical exhaustion. Throwing a ball for an hour tires muscles. Solving a scent puzzle for 10 minutes engages the brain's reward circuits. That engagement stabilizes mood. Stabilized mood improves focus. Improved focus enables learning. This is the progression most people skip. They demand obedience before emotional regulation. I learned to watch for signs of residual anxiety, lip licking, yawning in neutral settings, subtle body tension. These weren't disobedience cues, they were stress indicators. As I reduced pressure and increased structured cognitive stimulation, those signals decreased. If you truly don't want to give up on your rescue dog, make sure to check the first link in the description. That guide explains exactly why your dog may not be listening at home and what you can start doing today. The turning point wasn't dramatic. There was no cinematic breakthrough. It was quiet. One afternoon, I called his name softly during a scent game. He paused, turned immediately, and held eye contact. That moment wasn't about obedience. It was about trust. The real reason rescue dogs don't listen is rarely defiance. It is usually a combination of the decompression period, elevated cortisol levels, learned survival patterns, and lack of structured mental training. Learned survival patterns are especially powerful. Dogs in unstable environments learn to conserve energy, avoid attention, or disconnect emotionally. These behaviors persist even when danger is gone. Without intentional cognitive activation, those patterns remain. I stopped labeling behavior as bad. Instead, I asked, what emotional state is driving this action? When he chewed furniture, I increased problem-solving sessions. When he ignored commands, I shortened interactions and rewarded micro-responses. When he seemed distracted, I checked whether I had overstimulated him earlier in the day. The change wasn't instant, but it was steady. And here's what I know now. Giving up too early is the most common mistake new rescue owners make. Not because they lack compassion, but because they misunderstand the timeline of neurological adjustment. A dog's brain needs time to transition from survival to learning. It is not dominance. It is not low intelligence. It is not rebellion. It is a brain in transition. Once I aligned my expectations with biology, everything shifted. I focused on routine, structured mental games, progressive cognitive challenges, confidence building through controlled exposure, bonding before correction. Eventually, obedience emerged as a byproduct. Today, when I call his name, he comes, not because he fears consequences, not because I demanded it, but because he is mentally present. He was never broken, he was overwhelmed. If you're walking this same path, remember this. Your rescue dog's silence may not mean defiance. It may mean he is recalibrating. Beneath the distraction, beneath the hesitation, there is intelligence waiting to be engaged. When you activate the mind correctly, behavior follows. And if this story helped you see your dog differently, subscribe to the channel. We're continuing this journey together, exploring the science behind rescue behavior, real experiences, and practical guidance that makes a difference. Don't give up on him, and don't stop learning with us.